Hello, hello. It is Thursday, July 9th. It's 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to go live today with Jenn Lederer, motivational comedian and founder of Jenn Lederer Productions. We're going to be talking about laughter today and how that really helps wellness. And I would even say that laughter is Jen is here, we'll bring her on, that laughter is even a sign of wellness, a symptom of wellness, right? So we're going to talk with Jenn. I'm so excited to hear from her. Bring her on. She's coming. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, I love your red backdrop. That looks so nice.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't seen you moving around in real time in a long time, so it's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
Thank you. It's so awesome to have you here. So, Jenn, we're here today talking about laughter.
Yeah.
And you are a motivational comedian, and I want everybody to know what that is. And you believe, like I do, that laughter is an essential part of wellness. Now, I say I believe it. I'm not going to say I practice it because I am not like the best. For me to have this call with you is important for me personally because laughter isn't the quickest thing for me. Yeah, I love to laugh, but there's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of, when you're in that state of fight or flight, it's not so easy to just break into laughter. So I think that this is such a key element of wellness, and how we can bring that in is an important thing to think about, especially in these crazy times. So I'm so glad to have you here and to have you to talk about that. So tell us who you are, what you do. Tell us about being a motivational comedian. I know you have a production company as well, so just give us the lowdown.
All right. So yes, I am Jenn Lederer. I'm a motivational comedian, which in my opinion is something that most comedians are. They just don't call themselves that. I have been in the wellness world for over a decade. I've gone to a ton of workshops. I've listened to a ton of motivational speakers, and I was one. And I just would always be left thinking that there was something missing in the arc of always hearing somebody's problem spot, and then you were always meeting them on the other side. So the benefit always came from once you overcome or transform or whatever. And that's fine and that's powerful and that's great. But comedy is about, I have no answers. All I have is the truth of what's happening right now or what has occurred in my life, how I observe the world. Comedians are not up there to teach, they're up there to tell the truth. And the truth is hilarious if you have the capacity to be with it. So, I think that there are a lot of comedians that are very good at earning their audience's trust. And then when you have that, people will follow you anywhere. You can bring them into difficult conversations. You can present a challenging idea because their walls are down. So, it's really an amazing tool and a technique that most comedians just, I think, don't necessarily call it that.
And how did you enter that? How did you go from being a motivational speaker? I know you were a coach. You were a performer when you were younger. You're a performer obviously now, but you came to New York as a performer. How did you go from, how did you get into comedy? How did you start doing stand-up, and how did you start to see that as this is going to be my tool, or did you feel called to do it?
A little bit of, yes and. So for many years while I was motivational speaking, the feedback was always, your funny stuff is amazing. I want more of the funny stories. When you shared that funny story, I finally heard for the first time something that people have been saying to me for years, but it landed. So I kept dancing for almost 2 years with the idea of, well, what would it take to like call myself a comic? What would that look like? What would that really mean to be a comedian? And so anytime people would ask, what's new, Jen? What are you about to do? What's coming? What's coming? I would always say, oh, I'm about to get into comedy. I'm about to get into comedy. I'm about to get, I said that shit for 2 years. And then I went to an intuitive painting class and I painted. I know that you can't make this up, Denise. They gave us a word to paint on. The word was curiosity. And I started painting. And then this owl came out, and it's this owl. If you go to my about page on my website, you can see the owl. It looks like a John Lennon owl that just returned from like an ayahuasca trip or something. And I signed the corner of it, and I heard clear as a bell, start comedy now. And the room that I painted that owl in ended up being the room that gave me a 3-month residency to start doing comedy shows. I pitched them the next day because there was a fake brick wall behind me. I'm like, yo, it doesn't get any more aligned than this. And so I started by doing 20-minute sets, and the building was filled with business owners, international business owners. It was a co-living, co-working space. So it was my exact audience that I would need to practice what I felt was going to be my form of motivational comedy, which at the beginning was much more of like funny talks. Whereas now I think that I have more of the technique of actual joke writing and shortening things and kind of, keeping the pacing moving a little differently. But that's how I got into it.
I love it. And you've learned the form you had a natural affinity for a funny talk in your motivational speaking. And then you were aligned, which is interesting. So for me, thinking about you and your words, the number one word that comes to mind when I think of my talks with you are, just anything you've talked about is alignment. It's like the word, the alignment. And you just said that you were in this aligned place. There was a fake brick wall behind you. That's where you were going to be, this owl. You were in alignment and you heard it. And then you shifted into that next thing, which was probably scary. I mean, I imagine being up on stage. I think that stand up to me is the scariest thing. Now, obviously not for everybody. Was it scary for you to go into this?
Yes. I was like, I'm for sure going to suck at this. And it was the one art form I said I would never do. I would actively say, I will do a lot of things. I will never do stand-up.
Oh my God.
So that should have been my first clue many years ago that I will 100% be doing stand-up.
I love that. No, I love it. I love it. So what there is this, I actually used a quote from your site, and I cited you on it for this week's Insta posts. And the quote was, laugh your way to a breakthrough. And I just want to hear about that a little bit more. How you see, like, what does laughter do? What does laughter do to us? How can it help us? How do we use it as a tool?
Yes, I've thought about this a lot because it is something I believe. And I've found that the way that my alignment works is I hear a phrase and then I reverse engineer what that actually means to me. So, the mantra, laugh your way to a breakthrough, was something that came to me, and then I've been exploring it for years.
Yes.
And what I found is what laughter does is it brings you to your essence. It brings you to that part of yourself. When you're an infant, you laugh. No one has to teach you how to laugh. Your laugh is yours. No one laughs like you, right? It's an identifier. And so it actually connects you to that essence that I think we're always seeking when we do wellness. right? I want to connect to myself. I want to connect to myself. I need me time. I need self-care. It's all about finding that. And so laughter, to use as a tool from the stage to an audience, or even in my one-on-one work, when I'm digging in with someone, I try and keep them laughing because it keeps their walls down.
Yeah.
Because it puts them in their essence. And when we are in our essence, our walls are not up, because our essence is trusting. Our essence is love. So if I can get you into a place of love, like, forget about it. I can get anything. We can produce anything from there.
Yes. I 100% believe that. It's interesting. I went on a vacation by myself with some old girlfriends who I hadn't seen. They're from my single life. There were the four of us. We always hung out together. We were, it was a time in my life where things were feeling very free. I now have a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, and it's a little different. Life feels like a little harder, just a little, right? And moving to New York City. So this was when I lived in the South, and I got back together with the girls, had no responsibilities. This was probably like a year ago. And I was so funny. Like, I was like cracking myself up. I was laughing easily. I was telling jokes that I thought were like, that's the best. When you're like not trying to be funny, like, you're funny. That is a good place to be. And what I realized was, I haven't been there in like 4 years. I am not there. I don't live in that state. And so the question is, from you, how can I, or someone like me who is bogged down in the like vital survival mode that we're in right now, or just, I've been in it for a while, but I mean, it's a little amplified for most people now, I would say. How do we get ourselves into that bubbly essence, that laughing, where we feel trust, we feel release? Like, can you make yourself laugh? Like, how do we get there?
Yes, you can make yourself laugh. You can. There's something called laughing yoga. And you just start laughing. And if you do it for a minute, you will actually start laughing. And I'm happy to do it with you right here if you want. We could just do it for 30 seconds.
Oh my God. Okay, we could try.
Okay, now you guys, I'm really not a fan of the phrase fake it till you make it, but that's what this is. You pretend to laugh, and then you will start laughing. And it releases endorphins, and you get like naturally high, and it's awesome. Okay, so we're just gonna start laughing. Like, you're just gonna like,
How are you doing that?
Don't stop. You're faking it a little bit. It's fine, but you gotta just keep going. And let yourself just be like,
oh my God. Oh, it's funny. I could see how I could get there. I think it would take me longer than 30 seconds, and having the pressure of people watching me is a whole different thing. But that is the pressure of like having to produce that with an audience, right? Like, or being right, which is interesting. But it's interesting, and it's funny because I was watching some show and some actor, and I was like, damn, they just went into like a real laughter. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So, but it's possible. And like you said, it starts and it actually becomes the real thing. I love that.
And it's actually a fun thing for families to do. Like, if you have everyone lay down on their back on the floor and close their eyes and start doing it and just see what happens for a couple minutes, honestly, the room will be filled with laughter. You can do it on your own, but doing it with someone else with your eyes closed for all the reasons that you said, it truly, it allows you to remember that you're able to laugh. Like, sometimes we actually forget what it feels like to laugh. We forget what our laugh sounds like. We forget to give ourselves permission to laugh. Because things are serious. And so if you laugh, you're actually disrespecting the severity of the situation. And that's not the case. Because again, laughter brings you into your essence. And if you have a challenge to face, you better believe you're going to be better off facing it in your essence than anything else. The other thing that you can do is just notice what you're consuming.
Okay.
So you may not, like you asked, how do you stay in that bubbly state? You stop trying to be in that bubbly state all the time. That's not going to happen. But you can check in on, did I bury myself in the news, in social media feeds, in hearing other people's drama, taking care of other people? You know, whatever your favorite funny clip from a movie is, you know you can find that on YouTube.
Right.
Like you can go search for the thing that you know every time makes you laugh.
Yes.
And choose it. It's just like any other wellness practice that you talk to people about on here. You got to choose it.
Right.
It's always on the shelf. You can always meditate. You can always do breath work. You can always move your body. You can always laugh. But do we? No.
Yes. Yes. Well, when I was introing this call, laughter, I think of as a symptom of wellness, right? So then when you're in a buoyant state, like when I felt comfortable with my girlfriends, the pressure was off. I had so much time. Laughter for me exists in abundant time. I have time to joke with my husband about something rather than, oh my God, we need to figure this out right now because we literally have 3 minutes to talk before I need to go to bed. You know, it's like this very like everything. But when I feel like, we're sitting around, we're having fun, we can joke around, right? And so I think of it as the symptom, but what I'm hearing from you is like actually using it or like choosing it as a tool, right? To promote that state of wellness. So fake it till you make it, going at it from the reverse end, which I think is really interesting. And I think that's a great practice, especially now. It is. Everything is so serious. And that when we're out of laughter and we can't lighten up, we're seeing what's happening on social media. We're seeing what's happening to relationships between humans, period. I mean, this is not just COVID. This is interpersonal relationships. This is how people are talking to each other on social media. This is how people are feeling towards each other, how people are yelling at each other. It is yelling now. It's not joking. It's not light. It's not funny. So I love that. So you would say, pick, you know what makes you laugh, go like insert a little piece of comedy into your day. What things would you say if you were to give me 2 or 3 things besides the laughing yoga, just simple things that we could just add into our day as a practice? What would they be?
Just see if you've laughed today. Like having a check-in and put it on the calendar so it pops up on your phone as a reminder.
I love that. Okay.
Have I laughed today? And then if you haven't, don't go into judgment because that's a whole other thing. Just notice. It's just, wellness is all about awareness. It's not right or wrong. It's what is. And that's comedy, right? It's not right or wrong. Comedy is just what is. And so chances are, if you stop and look at the fact that you want to laugh, but you haven't today, that fact alone might be enough to make you chuckle at yourself.
That's great.
And then if you don't feel like laughing, see if you can smile a little.
Yeah, I love that.
It's the same kind of message to your brain. You're getting the same benefits of those endorphins.
I love that.
And then the other thing is having those girlfriends, right? Having those support systems that mirror back that environment that says to you abundance, plenty of time, room to be myself. Like have those people in your life on a more regular basis, or have those environments in your life on a more regular basis so that you have that experience. Because again, I would be willing to bet when you came back from that vacation, that energy stayed with you for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you remember it and then you're like, oh my God, this feels good. And also I am funny. So why don't I just like keep doing this? And then I'm like the source of people's laughter. And before you know it, you're going to be coming to an open mic with me.
I mean, that is funny because you saying like I would never do stand up. I'm like, no, never. But I like that as like a process. My not son-in-law, my stepson, he does stand up and he's an extremely quiet, like he's generally been like a quiet kid, you know, he's not a kid anymore, but he did stand up and I was always so shocked, you know, and so impressed because I mean, I can talk it up to anybody. But the thought of, and I'm a performer, you know, but the thought of going on stage and like trying to make people laugh as a university professor, you do some stand up, you know, you do it when you're in front of 60 people and it's natural. You end up like you said, like with your motivational speaking, it just comes out a little naturally, but to stand up and claim that you're going to be funny is a whole different thing. And so that's where I find like the first show I saw you in, which was I think one of your first performances, and you had put it all together, I was like nervous for you because I'm like,
I know. I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Because you're like, I'm like, I know this is scary, and I'm just like putting myself in your shoes. And you were amazing, and you had me laughing, genuinely laughing, not laughing like for you to be nice, you know?
Right. But I appreciate that you would have anyway.
I would have gotten some of that laughing yoga out there.
Exactly.
It was great. It was so great. So I'm so impressed with you, and I'm so grateful that I know you and watching your constant transformation and growth and evolution, and here we are. So is there anything you are doing right now, Jenn, that we can participate in? Any programs you're doing or any anything that you want to share with us that, you know, followers could participate in?
Yeah, JennLederer.com pretty much gives you anything you need to know about me. I have a little opt-in there that's pointless writing prompts if you want to write for no reason.
I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah, and it really is aligned with this conversation that we're having, that just like what you said when you were being funny with your friends, there was no pressure, right? You didn't have to be funny. So when people tell me I have nothing to write about, and then I say, okay, well, just write about this, and it's actually means nothing. Like, write about a time when you messed up a recipe. This isn't one of the writing prompts, but like that alone, when someone gives you a boundary, suddenly your mind has a direction to go. And then it's about writing it and being able to know how to look back on it and find, okay, if I did want to turn this into a newsletter, what are some questions I can ask myself? Well, what did I write about? Why did my mind go in that direction? What is it about that memory, that thing? Did I write in first person? Did I write in third person? Why? What was there a lesson in the story? If so, what was it? Does that lesson connect to the work that I do? There's a lot that your subconscious is always saying if you give it the space to say it for no reason at all. So pointless writing prompts is there for you.
I love that. And your YouTube, because you have a series that you're doing, right? And so, that's on your website as well, I think.
Yes, Ageless Adventures. We have a weekly show on a platform called Gov's Comedy Radio. It's Governor's Comedy Club on Long Island. Oh, cool. They have a radio platform. So, yes, that information is there as well.
I love that. I'm going to have to check some of that out. Thank you so much for being here. So good to see you. I'm encouraged. I think I'll be thinking more about laughter and checking in. I love the check-in. Like, how do you laugh today? Put that in the phone. I think that's important. And so good to see you. And we'll see you soon.
Love you.
Jenn. Love
Thanks,
you
Denise.
too. Bye.